and good afternoon. It's afternoon here. I just had my lunch and welcome to the next episode of my podcast. My name on Instagram and on here and Ko-Fi and Etsy is Orchid's Heart. Don't know why, it's just always been that name. So yeah, I am in my living room today, which is a rarity because my living room usually resembles some kind of eBay depot. My partner and I sell quite a lot of stuff on eBay, old things mostly. You can see we have a bit of an odd collection of things in the house, and it has been covered in stuff to sell for weeks. But we have family visiting soon, so I've tried to make it more of a usable space. I mean, it's not completely. There's hidden piles of mess you can't see. But yeah, such is life. We still don't have our wood burner in here. Those of you who've been following me for a while will know that I am patiently waiting for my partner to install a wood burner, and I think when he does that we'll overhaul the space completely. And I was actually thinking just now as I was setting up, I think when it's done it will be perfect podcasting space, so maybe I'll stop moving around the house because this room is really bright. It's got two massive windows that don't have curtains in. Because we live on a terrace house, we put those, you know, that film you can stick onto windows so that you can't really see out, or people can't see in, but it lets all the light in. So it's always bright in here. Yeah, so I think maybe one day I'll stop moving around with these videos. Anyway, I'm waffling. I've just come back from my main holiday with my partner for the year. Once a year, pretty much since I've met him, we've done some kind of summer road trip. When we first met, I was a teacher at a university, so I used to obviously have some holidays off, and I'd move in with him for the summer holidays, and we'd go on some kind of road trip. He quite likes camping, and I'd never really been camping before when I met him, and so we do quite a lot of that. So basically we drove from Birmingham up to the Isle of Skye and back again across 5 days. We booked a hotel for the first night in Glasgow because he really likes the pubs there, and we booked an Airbnb on Wednesday night near Skye, but the rest of the time we camped. We sleep in the back of our car, which, you know, is alright. It's better when it's raining to be in the car really than in a tent because you don't have to deal with all the wet stuff, and it's we make it cozy enough, so it's fine. But yes, we had a really good time. I'll probably put some footage in at the beginning, at the end, and at the end. And I got to go to the Isle of Skye Natural Dye Company, also known previously as Shilsidair. Don't know if I'm saying that correctly. Looks like that's how it's said from how it's spelled. So I'll show you what I got from there in a little bit. So yeah, I've also done, I've got a half finished object. I've got 3 other whips. I do have a small amount of acquisitions, all naturally dyed, so if that's interesting to you, then do stick around. A little bit of sewing that I didn't really share last time because there was too much. And I finally mended my purple trousers, so I thought right at the end I'd talk a little bit about that in case that is interesting to anybody. It might be the world's most boring content, but I know I was really anxious about figuring out how to mend them, and so kind of piecing together some advice I was given, plus I guess a bit of imagination on my part. I kind of figured out a sort of mend, and I did actually wear them quite a lot on holiday. Because they're kind of mended now and they're not like best trousers, I was less fussy about wearing them camping. And where we stayed in an Airbnb, it was very animally and a bit of a micro farm, so it wasn't exactly the cleanest place. You know, like countryside is clean dirt, I like to say. Like dirt is just dirt doesn't bother me. What does bother me is things like oil and stuff like that, like the kind of dirt you get from cars. My partner's like a car fanatic, so that's prevalent in my life, and that's the kind of dirt you can't get out of things, but like dirt generally is, you know, not a big deal. But yeah, so that's kind of what I'm going to share with you today, I think. In case anybody's interested, my quilt, I've shared this before, the designer of the fabric is Catherine Quinn. So that's Catherine with a K and Quinn spelled Quinn, and I bought the fabric on Spoonflower. Now, we are no longer in the EU. I probably wouldn't buy from her again because from Spoonflower because of the import charges. But it's truly beautiful fabric. My favourite, actually, you can't see, but it's on my project bag, which you'll see in a bit. It has like walls and swans and things on. They're just really whimsical and lovely. And I am wearing my Beetle Magic cardigan, which I think I shared as a finished object last time, but I don't think I was wearing it. So I am wearing it today. So kind of move around a bit so you can see it. It is a bit of a strange shape here. I'm not really sure why, but you know, I'm not that bothered. It kind of is higher at the side than it is at the front. I don't know whether that's something to do with my something to do with my button band, whether that dragged it down a bit. But I'm not too bothered by that. It doesn't really bother me. I predominantly wear skirts and dresses anyway. So with something like that, I guess actually it could be quite an interesting shape. There is, I don't know if you can see, maybe it's easier to see on this side against the white, if I stay there. There is a bit of strange shaping on the colour work, like it does puff out a bit on the sleeve, which I guess if I really wanted to be picky does bother me. But honestly, I don't think many other people would really notice. And so yeah, the pattern is called Beetle Magic. It's by Katie Greenbean. It's not available on Ravelry. She doesn't use Ravelry anymore. Sorry, I got something in my eye, I think. I bought it as a printed pattern, and I should have brought it down because the printed patterns that she does are really beautiful. She's an illustrator, for those of you who don't know her. It's one of her main creative outlets, I guess, is as an illustrator. And so she created like a really beautiful little booklet. And to be honest, buying a printed booklet is kind of the same price as stitched a pattern. So why not have something tangible with some beautiful artwork? So yeah, I am talking a bit out of order here. So I thrifted a cone of yarn, which I think was undyed, but I'm not entirely sure. It was kind of a grey colour with tweedy flecks in it. I think the flecks might have been dyed because they were blue. And I naturally dyed that yarn with henna, which is actually what I used to dye my hair. So my hair and my jumper have dyed with the same thing. And I swatched, and holding the yarn single, it was a bit gappy, so I ended up holding it double, which really threw my gauge out of whack with the pattern. So I did some maths and decided that I would knit the smallest adult size. According to my maths, I could have actually knitted the largest child's size, but I decided that wasn't a good idea in case it was different short row shaping for a child, or I think there might have been only one row of beetles for the child, maybe. So I did the smallest child size, knowing that there would be a bit of positive ease, which is fine. I don't really wear fitted clothes, to be honest. And yes, so the blue is 1.5 mini skeins from my advent last year from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co. So was it last year? No, it was the year of COVID, because I used some money from a cancelled flight I didn't think I was going to get back. Boring, but I was meant to go on holiday to Istanbul. It got cancelled because of COVID, and the fight I had with the flight to get the money back went on and on and on. I didn't think I was ever going to get the money back. I thought it was lost. So when it did come back, I indulged on her advent. And actually she made a mistake in my advent. Actually, it was a good mistake. And I ended up with 2 of the Rufus Christmas jumper mini skeins, which is this blue. So that worked out quite well because it meant that I had enough to do the colour work on this jumper. Although I actually think, because I was meant to have Rufus's Christmas jumper and then a blue that was a bit lighter or a bit darker on the day before or after, I think that that could still work quite well. Like you could do like one shade of blue, maybe a bit darker, a bit lighter, a bit darker, a bit lighter. That could look really nice. I think the yarn that she originally used for the beetles was called Metamorphic by River Knits, maybe it's called. Maybe I'm remembering that wrong. And it's a bit like Spin Cycle. And so the beetles are all different colours. Now mine are just lots of different shades of blue instead. Because it's naturally hand-dyed yarn, the colours aren't consistent. So in some places it's darker and lighter than the others. So I do get like a bit of colour change on my beetles, but not too much. And I mimicked the patterning on the collar, on the sleeve. That isn't in the pattern, but I wanted to mimic that. The reason why this stands out more than that does is because I initially started out on the recommended needle size, which I think was 2.75, and it was because I was holding 2 strands, it really hurt my hands and I wasn't enjoying it. So when I sized up for the colour work, and it's probably part of the reason why there's this like bump going on, when I sized up for the colour work, I think it was like 3 or 3.25 millimeters for the colour work. I just carried on knitting in that size because I was enjoying the feel of it more. So yeah, I guess that also meant it came out bigger than I intended, because I guess I swatched on 2.75 millimeter needles, which are like sticks. So that wasn't really pleasurable. So, but the main modification I did, I talked about this more in my last video, was I steeked it and made it cardigan, because it's actually a pullover pattern. And my buttons were from Loop London, but I'm afraid they sold out a long time ago, because I did think I might need a couple more, and I tried to buy a couple more, and there weren't a couple more, but I just kind of spaced it so that I just used what I had, and you know, it's fine. I don't think it's too gappy, it's okay. But yeah, so that's what I'm wearing. Whips? No. Well, half finished object stroke whip. We'll do that one first. I always blank when I have to move to the next section. I do apologise for the collection of random stuff on these shelves. Like I said, this room is a bit of a dumping ground. So that's my mother's teddy bear and the world's worst ceramic owl, which I made a few pre-COVID actually, in a pottery workshop. So yes, my first finished object stroke not quite finished. So I shared the start of this with you guys last time. So this is the Calico socks by Morgan of Shop Knitting Nellie. So her friends are running a cal at the moment, a knit along, for her patterns. And this one's my favourite one of her patterns. I mean, actually, that's a lie. Maybe the Chantilly socks, which is like a lacework pattern, is my favourite. But I have to be honest, the idea of lace on socks I find a little bit... I worry I'd find tedious. But it is on my mental to-do list to try at some point. Cabled socks as well. I think cabled socks are gorgeous. But I do worry I just get bored or frustrated. I don't know. So these are, okay, my second favourite pattern by her. And there's like a lovely colour work cuff. Maybe that side, but that side's better. Yeah, this side has the join. So in her pattern, both rows of flowers are the same colour. So that's a modification I've made. I've done them 2 different colours. And this is because when I was knitting a pair of socks before in the same yarn, and I ripped them out a few times, which meant I had lots of small snippets of these colours, and so I wanted to use my small snippets up rather than, like, you know, cutting off more ends. And so predominantly this sock is made using John Arbon's Exmoor sock, which I think is a superwash nylon sock, but it's all sheep breed, sort of fairly local-ish to me. I use that kind of loosely because it's from down south and I'm in the Midlands. But if we're talking about, you know, global yarn production, it is fairly local. And I quite like their ethoses, and this yarn is really rustic. Now, I have knit a pair of socks in these yarns before for my mother, and she loves them. I did test knit a sock for Melody Hoffman in this colour, but I've only knit one of them, so I've not been able to wear it yet myself. So I'm hoping soon I will have a pair where I can actually wear them and see what it's like. I have a feeling it might be quite warm because of how rustic it is. So I would say it doesn't feel like a superwash sock yarn to me or a nylon sock yarn. I think it's quite unique, really. I've not come across a sock yarn like this by anybody else. But maybe Tuku sock wool would be a bit like that. I don't know, I've not tried it, but kind of looking at other people's pictures, maybe it would be similar. It's a sock yarn I'd really like to try one day, but I haven't been able to. And this one at the top is a natural sock Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co mini skein. I really like this colour. I haven't yet knit a whole sock in her yarn. I'm too nervous to. I think I am actually tempted to maybe knit a sock using her yarn, but maybe Exmoor sock on the heels and toes, possibly, at some stage. Yeah, we'll see. So I finished this one last night. I'm going to try and cast on the second one later, because once you've done the colour work, obviously it's a fairly easy knit, and I've got kind of a hectic week this week with lots of visitors. So if I can get through the colour work tonight and maybe tomorrow night, because to be honest, that's probably 2 evenings for me. I'm quite a slow knitter. Then I'll have quite an easy project to be sailing on with. So that's one whip. And I'm using this, I think this came from like a zero waste vegetable shop, but I really like it. I think it's really cute. And so I've been keeping my yarn in there. So that's that one. I have one brand new whip you've not seen before, but I'm going to save that one for last. The thing I'm going to share next, I guess, is my beige jumpers update. So this looks really funny at the moment. I think last time I had started one of the sleeves, maybe. So this is my Tulip pullover. Don't worry, I am going to knit it longer. Because I'm knitting this from a cone of mohair and 2 plates of Plutlopi, and they're quite difficult yarns to manage. Obviously the Plutlopi is liable to breaking, and the cone of mohair is massive because, I mean, it's huge. It's like a kilo or something ridiculous of mohair. Not a kilo, maybe 500 grams, but that's a lot of mohair. So I can't really take it out of the house. I've been knitting it at home. I did take it to Knit Night twice. And yeah, so I've finished the 2 sleeves. This neck is actually looking much wider on screen than I remember it being. I really hope it doesn't come out too wide. I guess held up against me. Doesn't look so bad. Maybe it's something about the I think it's the perception. Perspective, perception, perspective. I mean, it is going to be wider than most of my other jumpers, but hopefully not too wide. So yeah, I've done the sleeves, bracelet length. I think maybe more fitted than she anticipated. I'm not sure. I always end up doing this, like kind of decreasing maybe more than I should on a sleeve. I mean, I do like quite a close fitting sleeve, but it does sort of limit your options for layering. So we'll see. But yeah, I really love the colour. I think it is going to be quite big on the body. That looks quite big to me. So maybe I am going to have a bit of a strange, bigger body, tighter sleeve situation. I'll have to see how that goes. So that one is on hold for now. So the reason why I've done this kind of sleeve before the body situation is because it's the same size needles as the other beige jumper I'm knitting, and which is a present for my mother, which I need to give her mid-August. So I kind of got to the point where I was needed the same needles for both jumpers, but because I knit the sleeves on small circulars, I was kind of knitting the body on one, the sleeves on the other, and then once I finished these sleeves, I was doing the sleeves. I started the sleeves for the other one because of kind of the body. I now need the sleeves to carry on with that, so I'll show you that. Does that make sense? I think so. So I've just been kind of flip-flopping between the 2 projects. But I've got a bit bored of beige jumper knitting, so I've decided I'm going to have a break from mine and just kind of continue with my mum's. So that one is just a thrifted cone of mohair and 2 plates of Plutlopi. this one I'm knitting for my mother is mostly this Lettlopi, but then 2 other neutral colours for the colour work on the chest. So I have the body, which just looks like a floppy sack, needle still attached because I need to do the short rows, and I have started one of the sleeves. So once I've got 2 sleeves and I've done the short rows, I can, I think, get onto the yoke, which is the exciting part. So I'm kind of hoping that over this next week of people visiting and stuff, I can maybe finish both sleeves and make some decent progress on my sock. Is that ambitious for a week? I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, so that's the beige, quick beige jumper update. And then my final whip, which I think is quite an exciting one. I've been dying to cast on a shawl for ages. I've really had, like, I think for the last couple of months, really had the desire to knit a shawl. I have 2 and I wear one almost constantly, all the time. It's like a snuggly blanket around your neck. I absolutely love it. It doesn't really go with everything. I kind of wear it with everything regardless, because my other one is a bit fancier and I find it a bit harder to wear. So yeah, I really want, and I did cast on a shawl a few months ago, but the pattern didn't really work out with the yarn, and the yarn was too special to waste on like a bad pairing, and because it was like quite a rustic brown yarn, by the time I was getting to the point of working out what I wanted to knit with it, spring had started and I wasn't really feeling that vibe, so I thought I'd save it for the autumn when I really am in like the autumn knits vibe. So I decided on that logic that perhaps I ought to pick something a bit springy. So that's exactly what I'm doing. So this is a bit of a natural dye fest going on here. This is my naturally dyed project bag by Wool in Nature, which is absolutely gorgeous. Bit of an indulgent treat. I think I bought it for myself for my 30th birthday at the beginning of the year. I absolutely love it. But because it's pale and it's white inside, actually, I have to admit I don't ever take it out of the house. So if I am working on this project not at home, I put the bits I'm working on in a different bag because I'm really worried about getting it dirty. So I know that's a bit silly. I should have probably waited until she was doing a darker one, but I did really like it. So, and I have in here an assortment of naturally dyed yarns, but let me get out the bit I've finished first. So I'm working on the Vertices Unite by Stephen West. So this is my first Stephen West pattern, and if I remember I will stick in a picture because it's kind of a strange pattern to kind of describe. It's sort of triangular in its final shape, but not a traditional triangle shape shawl. For me, it kind of does blend into the crescent shape, which I prefer. I'm not a traditional triangle shawl person, which is a shame because there are some beautiful options out there. I find it hard to wear them, so it doesn't really work for me. And this one is like a bigger triangular type shape made up of lots of smaller geometric shapes. And so you knit it in sections. So you knit one section and then you pick up some stitches and knit the next section. And it's I think his version is really colourful. So this is section 1, which was much bigger than I thought it was going to be. So I think this is the biggest, I mean, this is basically a shawl in itself, right? And this is one section. So I think this only goes about half the width of the shawl. So it's going to be massive. You probably would have noticed I've made a mistake. It does stand out a lot more than I thought it was going to, actually. I noticed it in the car and I thought, oh, I can't be bothered to unpick 2 rows are stuck in there in the car. And now I'm kind of like, that does stand out more than I thought it would. I wish I had unpicked it, but life's too short. So one of the things I quite enjoyed about this is you cast on 2 stitches, and then by the time you finish the section, you have 2 stitches. So the only thing that I don't really like about my shawl I wear all the time is the cast on edge isn't very stretchy, and so it kind of has a bit of a wavy effect on the tails. And noticing that that's the same method that people use a lot in shawls for the increasing edge. It's kind of put me off knitting shawls like that, which is a shame because it seems most crescent bow shawls have that method of, is it like knit 2, yarn over something to create you get like an eyelet edge, and it's not stretchy. So I like this because once I've blocked it and pinned it out, it will be the shape it's meant to be. It won't pucker or anything, and it's really stretchy. There's loads of give, there's no tightness anywhere. I think it'll be really snuggly. So the yarn I'm using is this purple, which is Natural Sock 4-ply by Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co. I think it was in like the colour Wildflower or something. I bought it again during like COVID time. Yeah, as it was a bit of a whim, to be honest. Throughout COVID, because obviously none of us were going out doing, well, most of us weren't going out doing things. I spent quite a lot of money on Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co yarn. And this was one of the ones I purchased. I was going to knit some no nylon socks with this, but it went really well with the other colours I'd picked up for the shawl, so probably a better use. And I'm pairing it with another Woolly Mammoth. This is a lot of Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co yarn, to be honest. Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co, and this is her Cheviot. It was a limited edition in like a pale blue. And so this is, I think, 400 meters per 100 grams. This is, I think, 380, so it's a bit thicker. Now, I have to say, being completely honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the 4-ply. I do really love some of the colours, and when it knits up, it does feel really good, but it's much, much finer than, say, this one. This one's a lot bouncier. Yeah, and I kind of prefer the texture of this one, but together they do work really, really well. So I am enjoying the combo. I just think, I have a feeling that if you're going to knit something entirely in Natural Sock 4-ply, it could be quite tedious because it is quite fine. I guess that is the point of a sock yarn. Sorry, the tea. And then I have a few more yarns collected up. So this is, I left the ball band upstairs. This is a Welsh Mule by Nellie and Eve, which is also a natural dye company. I'm not getting my words up today. And it's like a yellowy, greeny, fresh colour. And so this is, I think, even slightly thicker than this one. So I think this is a sport weight. I think she did sell it as a 4-ply, but I think when I was looking at it, it was obviously more of a sport weight to me. And this one's really squishy and bouncy. I really like the feel of this one. I think I'm going to use this to do, he has in Stephen West, sorry, in his original, he has like a yellow block in his. I think I'm going to use that for that, and this is a 50-gram skein. These I had 100 of each, but I've used about half on that first section. And then I have a collection of mini skeins by Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co, which have all come undone a bit tangly. Let me So some of these are Advent colours, and some of these I did buy one mini skein set at some point, again around COVID time. And so I picked out some pinks and this blue. So some of the sections in the shawl are striped, like the one I just showed you, and some are solid. So I am kind of thinking for the next section, which is striped, I might stripe this peachier colour with this paler pink as like a low contrast stripe section. And and I might use this for like a solid section. I don't really know, I'm kind of making up as I go along, which is either a good idea or a really bad idea, because I think those are actually quite nice striped together. So maybe it's a mistake to stripe those two. I did sort of think about like a low contrast stripe section. So maybe I should do those and then those. Although that might be more stripes than I really need. I might need to pick some up for a solid section. I'm just a bit worried because these are only 20 grams each. If the section's more than 20 grams, I might run out. So I don't really know. Equally, I do need something to go around the whole edge, and I don't know that 20 grams would be enough. Because it might be nice to use one of these just to go around the outside. Because it has like a I-cord bind off, or like edging, I think, around the whole thing. But so the colour palette, am I going to be able to do this? For the whole shawl is like kind of like this. So obviously this blue is quite bright, but I think it lifts it a bit. So yeah, exciting. Though I am a little bit... So my shawl I wear all the time is Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co, naturally dyed, and it's faded a lot. So I am a little bit anxious about using all these different colours and the possibility that it might just fade. So, but equally, I do have them all now, and it's good to use them. And I don't really know what else you can use for mini skeins other than colour work. So I'd have that problem no matter what I use them for. But anyway, I'm enjoying the process. I'm really enjoying the shawl. I am making notes in my... Oh, I do have the ball band for Nellie and Eve. I was lying. It's not Welsh mule. It just says British wool. The Welsh mule is something else I bought from her before. Inspired by the landscape of Welsh Mountain. It is 50% Exmoor Blueface, 30% BFL and 20% Wensleydale. And it's 194 metres per 50 grams, so I was completely wrong about that. Just feel thicker though. Because I fully intend to do another one of these shawls in earthy colours at some point, because I think it's quite a good pattern for using random skeins or like random half skeins. But you need a couple of full skeins and maybe a couple of half skeins. And that's a good way of really combining like similar random skeins together to make something really usable. So I'm kind of keeping track of what yarns I'm using, the weight and the meterage, and then how much weight and meterage I'm using in each section, just so that when I go on to do my next one, if I'm using more scrappy yarns, then I kind of have a bit of a better idea of what I'm using. However, if it comes out really, really massive, I might do the smaller one next time. I thought the smaller one was more like child-sized, but yeah, I mean, but maybe massive will be nice. And it's a nice way to like showcase a collection of yarns, I think. So let me just gather that back up in my bag. Oh, and I've got one of my own progress keepers on there. It's a little watering can because it's my spring knit with all my springy colours. And I just wanted to indulge. Doesn't that look pretty in there? I love how the colours of that first section actually go really well with the project bag. Pop those needles back in. Okay. So that is all of my knitting whips. I have a small amount of natural dyed acquisitions and future knit plans and then sewing. So if my mini acquisitions, which is like 3 things, doesn't appeal to you, then that's fine. Goodbye. If they do, then stay. And also there's a bit of sewing to chat about, as mentioned at the start. So yeah, acquisitions. So we'll start with what I bought before I went on holiday. So I have been doing really well. I was really making a dent in my yarn stash and using what I had and using it, I think, fairly well, especially with the shawls I've got planned coming up. that has all gone out the window. So I'm not sharing that much acquisitions wise with you today because most of it is still en route. I should have said actually when I was sharing the Calico socks, sorry, as part of the cow for knitting Nellie, I did actually win one of the prizes, like I think week 3. So that's coming to me from America, which is really exciting. So maybe I'll share that yarn with you in a future episode. It's all kind of reds and khaki greens, which is quite exciting because they're both colours I quite like. And a few other bits and bobs in there. So unfortunately customs rejected it and sent it back to the sender. So I've got to wait a bit longer before it arrives. But super exciting. But before that, I ordered 2 skeins of yarn, so that's fine, that's not very much. Then that's on its way. And then I went on holiday and I acquired 4 more. And then and then this morning, yesterday I bought some more Exmoor sock to finish off the pairs I've already started knitting. And this morning I bought from someone else's stash some more yarn. And then in the next couple of weeks I'm going to a yarn festival. So safe to say my efforts at managing my yarn buying have gone kaput. So anyway, my small acquisition section for you today. I have really wanted to try one of Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co's variegated sock skeins for a while. I really lust after Woolen Twine's variegated sock sets. She's based in Germany. Her colours are fabulous. I'd really love to try her yarn one day. It's actually impossible for you to buy from her. She only sells to UK people if you order over £160 worth of yarn, which yes is a jumper and then a few other bits and bobs, so it's for nice yarn isn't that hard to do, but for me it's not really feasible at the moment, and I dread to think what the customs and charges would be on that. I think you'd be looking at over £200 all in, and that's not for me. I would have thought at some point I'll go back to Paris and visit some friends, so hopefully I can persuade one of them to let me order some yarn to their flat, and then I can just try a little bit rather than having to go crazy. So on the strength of that, because I did really want to try one of Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co's variegated skeins, and because I know she's closing her shop until like September or something, I did treat myself to one of her variegated skeins. So this is the Mythology, is it called? Yes, Mythology colour. And I picked this one because looking at my stash, the other mini skeins I have from her from my advent calendar, sorry that's not a mini skein, that's leftover, these, and this bit of leftover from one of my other shawls that I knit with yarn by her, I thought would go really well on a low contrast type pattern. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to knit the colour craze again. If you've followed for a while, you know I've cast this on twice and ripped it out twice, actually using some of the yarn that I'm using for my Vertices Unite shawl. So I thought this and then some undyed oatmeal 4-ply would make quite a nice colour craze. So this being the main colour, the main accent being the undyed oatmeal, and then using these minis for some of the textured sections. So it would be overwhelmingly pinky beige, but I thought, ice cream van, can you hear that? I thought with the pops of colour and stuff, it could be quite an interesting like autumnal knit, but it might be something I cast on this summer because I'm quite excited to try that. And at some point I really wanted to try her hearth sock to knit some chunky rib socks because it's like a slightly heavier sock yarn for like cozy autumn winter. I am kind of imagining sitting here in my living room in front of my wood burner knitting these socks. So fingers crossed that will be the vibe for this autumn. And so I was watching her latest podcast and she shared what was it, copper and cognac. And I'm sure when I looked at the video, she said, she was like, this one's the copper, this one's the cognac. And the copper looked more orange than the cognac. And so I ordered the copper. And I have to say, I am slightly underwhelmed by the colour. It is a really gorgeous soft yarn. It feels really nice, and I do really like the yarn itself, but it's not orange, it's not rust at all. It's kind of in the same family as these, like pinky brown, which isn't what I wanted. So all is not lost. I am very tempted. I mean, it's not a bad colour. I might leave it how it is. Equally, I might over dye it in something a little bit more orange. Maybe like yellowy Kutch or onion skins or something, because that would lift it a bit. I'm a little bit wary that I could ruin it, but I don't think I would, because it's quite a dark undertoned base. So I think it would be quite easy just to perk up a bit. So I might do that. I'm still umming and ahhing slightly. I've done quite a bit of natural dyeing, so it's not something that I'm like unfamiliar with. It's quite a lot of effort just to dye one skein. So I don't know if I can be bothered just to dye one skein. Equally, I could knit up the socks and then dye the socks, but the problem with that is like all hand dyeing is slightly uneven. The socks might come out patchy, so it's better to dye the yarn first, because then it distributes better when you knit it up. So we'll see. I haven't really decided. My last acquisition is my souvenir treat. So my darling boyfriend, who I don't call him that very often, he said he would treat me to a present from Isle Skye Natural Dye Company, Shilsidair. And I kind of knew what I wanted when I went. I'd looked at their website before so that I could kind of mull and think over what would be a wise purchase, because I was still kind of in my good, I'm not going to buy obscene amounts of yarn for no reason kind of mindset. And I really wanted to make like an educated choice, or like a considered choice, not buying something for the sake of it. And so I'd kind of settled on some DK Wensleydale in a really bright green colour, which was out of stock online, but I was kind of hoping that it might be in stock in the shop. It wasn't. But I'll tell you, first of all, I'll tell you a little bit about going into the shop. So, you know, been on holiday for 3 days, we've been camping, a bit like kind of, I guess, tired, and we pulled up but we just been on a fabulous walk, actually, a really, really lovely walk, and I was really excited. We pulled up outside Shilsidair, and I guess that the shop is next to their house, and so it's kind of tucked away in the middle of nowhere. Really lovely place. And I went in and nobody was in there. The door was wide open. There was nobody in the shop. And I don't know about you, but I'm a bit, I guess, socially awkward. When there's no shop attendant around, I always feel really bad calling for help. It's happened to me a few times where I've been in small independent shops. You just walk in and nobody's there. But I could hear people hoovering and moving around. So I was like, well, they are here. They'll show up at some point. And it meant I could like really like take some pictures and have a look and like film the shop a bit, which I would feel uncomfortable doing if they were in front of me. So I hope you don't mind if you are watching this. But I wanted to show off your beautiful yarns in your beautiful shop. And it was kind of nice to have five minutes, like complete peace and quiet, looking at everything and absorbing. Because my ideal situation is that I can really look, pause for a few minutes, ideally like longer, go away and then come back. Obviously I can't do that. It's the other end of the UK, it's not possible. So I really thought, okay, like they don't have what it was that I wanted. So I started feeling the yarns and deciding what I liked the feel of most. And then there was one that was like alpaca that felt truly divine. But I then found one that was made from Gotland, and I really love Gotland. So that's what I chose. And it's the same colour, I think, as the one I was after. So I have these gorgeous skeins. I just, so good. And I'm really hoping will look nice on me. So it's 200 grams, because they're 50 grams each, of DK yarn, and it's 75% Blueface Leicester and 25% Gotland, and it's dyed with tansy and indigo. So what I really like about their yarns is that they all have these little tags with illustrations of the plants they've used to dye them. Yeah, and the colours are gorgeous. And it was as I was like trying to pick out 4 that looked the same that, is his name Simon, came in and was like, oh, someone's here. Oh dear, you need help. And I was like, no, I'm fine, don't worry. Yeah, do you know about natural dye? And I was like, yeah, I do, don't worry. I know what I'm getting myself in for. I know they're naturally dyed. So because this has got indigo in it, I might get some dye on my hands whilst I knit with it. I'm not too worried about that. I'll just make sure I'm not wearing anything pale when I knit with it. But so I say I was trying to be sensible with my shopping. I don't have a pattern in mind. So if anybody knows of any 200 gram, 700 metre-ish DK weight shawl patterns, please send them my way, because I haven't chosen a pattern yet. I was going to wait till the autumn to knit with this, but I might end up knitting with it sooner because it feels really lovely. And also DK will be like a quicker shawl knit than all of my 4-ply shawls I've got planned. So it might be a nice break. But yeah, so simple, crescent or asymmetrical triangle shawls, 200 grams, send thoughts my way, definitely. And yeah, that's all my yarny goodness. Just a little bit of sewing if you're interested. I can't believe I'm already racking up 46 minutes. I thought this one would be a bit quicker. So for the fabric people that follow me, I was going to share this last time, but my video was too long. Oh dear, that wasn't meant to come off. A few weeks ago, I went to go see where my partner grew up. We go there quite often to see his parents, and their town, Sudbury, which is in Suffolk, is known for silk weaving, and there's lots of derelict silk weaving mills there. But as we were walking into town, I saw a sign saying mill shop open, and I was like, what do you mean there's a mill shop here? No one's ever told me. What? And there were all these cones of something sat outside, so I was like, we are going in. It turned out it was like cones of silk thread, like would be good for weaving, but I don't think much else, it's too fine. But they have fabric, and I wanted to share this place with you because it wasn't overly expensive. Some of it was actually quite cheap, and it's all made there, so it's, you know, made in England, and it was just kind of a really nice experience. So I was in there with my partner, and he pointed at something. Sorry, this is going to be a bit ruffly. And I was like, wouldn't that be nice as a waistcoat? And I was like, would it? He said, yeah, I think that'd be really good as a waistcoat. I was like, okay. If that was a waistcoat, would you actually wear it? Yes, I'd wear it to the pub all the time. So I was like, okay. So he left the shop and I bought some. I don't like it. But he loves it, so it's like a burgundy fabric and it's got ducks woven on it. So I bought 1/2 metre of this, which I think is going to be too much for the front of a waistcoat. So I'm kind of hoping there's enough to make a tie in there as well. It's got lots of ends, I'm trying not to get everywhere. And then to go with it, I bought some plain. So this is for the back. So this is a burgundy silk. It's the same colour as the front one. The ducks isn't actually silk, I think it is synthetic. It was only £7 a metre, which is a shame. It does bother me a bit that it's not silk, but it's the one he picked out. These are both silks. And then this green was like, I don't know, £4 or £5 a metre, and she said it was silk as well, which I'm quite surprised at that price. And this is the same colour as the duck heads, and so that's going to be the lining. So the lining will be bright green, and then the back will be burgundy. So that will be for his birthday in August as well, so I need to get cracking with that really. I don't think I'm actually going to buy a waistcoat pattern. I think I'm going to look at a waistcoat he's already got and try and trace the pattern. I will then obviously have to make a toile and work from that. And if that doesn't work, maybe I will buy a waistcoat pattern. Only because I think it might be a waste of time buying a pattern, because he's very tall and very skinny. We are about the same width, really, as people. But he's 6 foot something. So normal patterns definitely won't fit him. It almost might be better to like, no, because they wouldn't be broad enough. I was gonna say like a child's and make it longer, but it wouldn't be broad enough, would it? But I mean, to be honest, I think if I got an extra small men's one and then just made it longer, like sliced it through the middle and added some width on, that would probably work. But I'm going to get him to try on. He knows I bought the fabric, so I'm going to get him to try on all of his waistcoats and see if there's one with a good fit. But I did buy something for myself as well. And this was the most expensive fabric out of the ones I bought. And it's this silk woven upholstery fabric covered in bugs. So I have 1/2 metre of this. It's really, really thick actually. I don't really know what I'm going to use the rest of it for. I have started making a project bag. So because it's got such a tight, thick weave, I think it'd be really good because I don't think knitting needles will poke through it. So this is meant to be just like a little sock bag that should not take up too much space in a bag, because I have quite a few big, bulky project bags, but not smaller ones. So I'm hoping I might finish this today. Might not, we'll see. But I have a lot left, so I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest. I could make more project bags and sell them, or I could make something else with it. Haven't decided. So the other thing I really liked about it is the receipt is like a receipt from, oh, hold on, it's got my dress on, I should cut that out. It's like quite an old-fashioned way of doing it. They have their letterhead and it was just really lovely. They wrote it out. So if anybody does want to go, I think you can order online for them as well. It's called Waters Mill Shop and it's in Sudbury. So really, really recommend. The bag just fell over. Right, last thing to share then is my fixing of my trousers. So I shared with you before, my favourite purple trousers are my Aranite pants. I made them from Tencel Twill. So Aranite is a pattern by So Liberated, and Tencel Twill is a fabric from Merchant and Mills, and Tencel is made from wood pulp. It's quite a sustainable option for fabric and really drapey, and I just really like these trousers. I absolutely live in them. And then when I was on holiday in Mexico, I split them on the bum and I was really sad. And I'm guessing the reason why it wore out on the bum before the inner thighs is because of the fact that I ride my bike to work every day. So probably I wore out the ass a bit. So I didn't know what to do to fix them because it was I could see that it was threadbare. It was splitting and cracking, and that it was threadbare on the inner thighs as well. So it wasn't just patching over a hole. It was quite a lot of patching that needed to happen. So this is the back. Can you see there is this patch here? So the hole is somewhere around here. So what I did was I got the original pattern pieces for this part of the leg and I traced off. So this is from the pattern, this curve here. This is like the curve of the butt seam. So I traced off the curve and that's the notches. And then I thought, right, well, I want my patch to be about that wide either side. So I made this kind of shape. So this is the curve with a bit extra around. I then had to cut out 2 and sew them together so it would mirror. So that's like, I mean, this is super weird. So it would mirror like the butt. So this is like Can you see? This is the butt. And so I made that and I laid it over the trousers to see if it was like kind of working correctly. And it was. So I then did that in the purple fabric, and I got some like spray glue. It's like flexible spray mount or something that I've used for quilting and things before. And I sprayed the back of my, no, before I sprayed it, I ironed down the outside seam, so it was all flat. I then spray glued the inside. I put them on, the trousers on, and I got my boyfriend to stick the panel around on my butt, so it was in the right place and it was like fitting the curves and everything. And then I did get him to put a couple of pins in, but because of the glue it pretty much held in place. And then I just stitched it on. That was really easy. I thought it'd actually be really difficult because of the shapes and like the way that, like, obviously it's an already constructed garment, so it's 3D. It's not a flat piece anymore. So I did that, and then I cut out a piece that was kind of like a lozenge shape, ironed down the outside like before, spray glued it, and then stuck it on the inside of the leg. And again, I thought that'd be really difficult to stitch on. I think if it come further down the legs, it would have been harder, and perhaps it would be a more long-term fix if it did come further down the legs. But it kind of went as far as the piece of fabric went because it was a scrap. And that's what I did for, can you see, the inside. Now that wasn't quite as plain sailing. There is a bit of puckering. It's kind of hard to show you. But honestly, when I've got them on, I can't really tell. And I don't think, if I'm wearing these, that people can actually tell they're patched. Now, I'm not sure I'd wear them to work anymore. I did wear them on holiday, which did mean I ended up wearing them to the pub. I did wear them the other day when I was doing some chores around the house and ended up wearing them up to the shop. Kind of forgot about it, went to the park, hung out at the park for a bit. So, because of the nature of the pattern, and there's lots of like flat felled seams with top stitching and things like that, it does kind of blend in. I mean, I don't think you can even really see it on the camera at all, to be honest. I think the more it wears, as you can see this fabric, the edges kind of over time get a bit worn in and do stand out a bit. So maybe over time it will stand out more. But it should give them at least a few more months wear, maybe another season. Sorry, I just kicked the tripod. Maybe another season's worth of wear. Ultimately, extending the wear at all is a good thing. If another hole appears, I don't know whether I will be able to fix them again in such a manageable way. The rest of the trousers are fine, like the hips, like the pockets and the legs and everything are fine. So, but because all the pieces are quite small, it wouldn't really be worth cutting them up to use for something else. A quilt maybe, but after I've made the quilt I'm making at the moment, I don't think I want to do another patchwork quilt for a really long time. So I don't really know how I would fix them again. It's kind of a shame. I guess I could potentially unpick them and use the outer pieces and replace the inside. I don't know. I think at that point you'd end up in a massive mess. So, but yeah, I'm happy. A bit more wear out of them. It's good to have a good pair of comfy house trousers. And yeah, if that helps anyone else with any mending, I really think the spray glue was a game changer, because if you just pinned it down, I think it would shift a lot and you'd get a lot more puckering and it wouldn't be as smooth. Hang on, I did actually, after I glued it down, I did then tack it down and then stitched it. So I glued, tacked, and then stitched. And obviously I took the tacking out. But yeah, so hopefully that helps you guys. I've been waffling on for an hour now, which is way longer than I intended. So hopefully I can still share some footage with you. I'm at the point now this time of year where it's actually a bit warmer, which means my laptop struggles even more. So it might not be able to handle too much of the footage. We shall see. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a separate mini video about Scotland. and upload it separately if you're interested. So if there is no footage of Scotland in this video, or not very much, keep your eyes peeled, because maybe I'll do a separate video with a bit about our holiday, if that appeals to anybody. I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll put some clips in of Shilsidair's shop as well that I went into, just to inject a bit of yarniness to it. But anyway, have a lovely week, everybody, and I will speak to you guys soon. Bye.